Hey guys, Sandy here, and welcome to a new series that me and a couple of my friends are putting on. It is stamping for scrapbookers, and I do have some products. I have a Love from Lizzie stamp set. It has some cookies on it. I have a photo of my two KitchenAid mixers. I have some glitter glazes and pastes and a couple punches. So let's see what I can do. Okay, so the first thing I did was grab my Misty stamping tool, and I have to say I really do love the Misty stamping tool. While I was at Creativation, I got to see the new model of it, which was pretty exciting. They've made some improvements, and I really think that the improvements are significant enough that I'm going to want to get that one. So the improvements are there's actually kind of engraved rulers around the edges. They're not just stickers. It comes with a bar magnet now instead of the two small magnets. There is a handle on the top part of the Misty now so that it's easier to flip up and down. And then they even have a little indent in the Misty itself that you can store your bar magnet without it being on top of your stamping area. So that was pretty cool. So when the big one comes out, the Memory Misty, the 12 by 12, when that one comes out with the improvements, I'm definitely going to be ordering one of those. Now, here I am just using some Wow embossing pad and some cheap Recollections clear embossing powder. And normally I would use a Versamark ink pad when I'm doing any kind of embossing. However, while I was at Creativation, I was given a Wow embossing pad in one of the classes that I took, and I have to say I'm pretty impressed with it so far. I haven't really done anything with it besides use it for perfect pearls or clear embossing yet, so I'm going to have to test it out with some other embossing powders and things, but so far so good. I'm really impressed with it. And then I'm just using my heat tool here to go ahead and get all of that embossing smooth and melty. Now I left all the embossing in because I enjoy watching it turn smooth and melty, but unfortunately, even though I could see it change in real life, you're not getting a really good look on the camera. And that might be because of that plastic packaging was there. It might have been offsetting it just a little bit. So I'm going to repeat what I just did with the stamps, except this time I'm going to be using two different inks. I'm going to be using a Gina K Amalgam Black ink, and then I'm also going to be using a Close to My Heart ink in Almond. Here is the almond ink. Now, I like different inks for different reasons. I really enjoy the colors of Close to My Heart. I think that they are great colors, and I also really like the fact that their ink pads are magnetic, and they're thin, and I have a little spinny thing that they fit in perfectly. For Gina K's Amalgam ink, it's probably my favorite black ink that I've played with. I just love it because you can watercolor with it, you can Copic marker with it, or other alcohol markers. It's just really a good all-around ink, and it's a nice deep black color. So now I have pulled out my Waffle Flower watercolor mat, and I am mixing up some Tailored Expressions liquid watercolor in chocolate truffle and my Vicky Bouton watercolor markers in yellow. And I've got a couple different hues here. I've got just straight brown, one that's got more yellow in it, and one that's got a little bit more brown to it. And I'm just messily watercoloring my embossed images here. And you guys, I'm not worried about the ink and paint and such things that are going off the edges because I'm going to be fussy cutting these cookies. So I'm just layering up color, mixing it up a little bit from the dark to the yellowy one, and just adding a couple of layers to just give it a little bit more. Now, if I wanted to do this probably properly, I would have waited between each color to make sure it was dry, but I didn't because I'm a little impatient. So now I've pulled over the stamped images that I did with the almond ink So I have two different watercolor pencils, and they're not like super expensive watercolor pencils whatsoever. And I'm not even sure if I'm actually using them in the correct way. It just felt like the thing to do, so I did it. I have a Crayola watercolor pencil and a Lakeland watercolor pencil, which is something I purchased at an art supply store, and I think it's like a student grade one. I don't think it's any kind of fancy thing whatsoever. So I just lay down the color with the watercolor pencil. In some places I press a little bit harder to make it a little bit darker. And then some places I just kind of shade it in a little bit. Then I take a watercolor brush with just plain water in it and kind of rub water over the entire penciled area, and it just smooths out the pencil and makes it less colored and more watercolory. So I hope that is the proper way. If I am not doing it in the proper way and you do know the proper way, lay your information down below in the comments because I would love to know. I'm actually happy with how it turned out this way. So even if this isn't like the good and true proper technique, it'll probably be something I do again. Now I am adding glitter paste and glitter glazes. I did add the little red raspberry jelly centers to those cookies because they were screaming for it. And I also added some Brutus Monroe glitter glaze and autumn leaves over top of the cookies that kind of look like snickerdoodles. I felt like this was kind of a snickerdoodly color, so it completely worked for that. Now I am bringing in the gateway to glitter, and that is stickles. Stickles were my first glittery love, and then I discovered the glazes and the paste and all that kind of stuff, so that was super exciting for me. Now I have one more panel left, and I go, oops, I should probably add the raspberry centers to these bad boys as well. So now I'm just doing the same exact thing that I did on the other panels. I am using the watercolor pencils and just coloring in lightly in some spots and darker on other spots. Sorry guys, I feel like my voice is going as I'm talking to you. So we're just going to go ahead and get that watercolor pencil down. And then as you can see, I had really dark on the edge there, a little bit less dark in the center, and then really light for the rest of the cookie. I'm not exactly sure what kind of cookie this little oblong shape one is supposed to be, but I felt like it could be brown because, you know, a lot of cookies are brown. This is some more glitter paste from Brutus Monroe, and I just did the snickerdoodle cookies on top of that again. Now, I am going to use my very old Creative Memories circle punches to punch out a lot of these cookies. And even the cookie that doesn't entirely fit, the little swirly cookie with the teeny little bit of glitter in it, is actually going to be cut out with the circle cutter as well. I do fussy cut out the gingerbread man, don't you worry about that. And I fussy cut out the oblong cookie, which I'm not exactly sure what it is, the little teeny cookies, and also that raspberry center cookie. So I do fussy cut every one of those out. And right now, you can tell it's like, oh, what is this? You've got a pile of weird circles. But that's okay, because right now it is a pile of weird circles, but soon enough it is going to be a pile of cookies. And that is what is exciting to me, is that you can take a bunch of stamped images. When they're all together and stamped out next to each other, they definitely look like cookies. When you start cutting them out, just throwing them into a pile like, oh, what the heck is this mess? But by the time they are on the layout and everything is finished, it's back to cookies again, you guys. So with this layout, I have made my embellishments, which is what I'm doing right now with these cookies. And then as you can see, I'm doing a little bit of fussy cutting. So now we are to the actual layout. Spent a good amount of time painting and glittering the cookies, but it was a lot of fun, so don't regret it for a second. Now these are also some close to my heart papers, and it just happened that these papers matched one of the KitchenAids in my photo, so that's what I went with. Now I am using a page protector, and I'm kind of tracing around this circle area, and I'm going to cut out the page protector into a circle. I actually do leave a little bit of the remaining bit of the page protector on as kind of a handle just for a little bit, but that does get cut off as well. You'll be able to see that. So see, I have that little handle. And I'm going to use my fuse tool to go ahead and melt these pages together. Now, let me give you a hint. So while I was doing the fuse tool, I did not hold my plastic pieces down enough, and they started to move a little bit on me. So you want to go a little bit slower than I did, and you want to make sure that your plastic is not shifting too much, because my plastic did shift a lot. So, and I really, like, I could tell it was shifting, and I was like, yeah, whatever. So if you're truly concerned with any kind of plastic shifting while you're using your fuse tool, boy, that's a tongue twister, just really go slow. Take your time and just pay attention to what the page protector is doing. So I'm going to go ahead and throw in my cookies. Yes, I'm just throwing them in there. I'm also going to throw in some gold sequin mix from Buttons and More. No, not Buttons and More. Buttons Galore and More. And these are 28 lilac lane sequins, so it's got a mixture of gold in it. And then I also throw in some Brutus Monroe, I gotta grab it because I'm not sure what it's called, shimmer flakes, some Brutus Monroe shimmer flakes, just to give it a little bit of color and fun and shine inside there. So there's the shimmer flakes. Look how gorgeous that is. And don't put a whole lot in there. It's going to spread out through the entire circle. And then here are those sequins that I was telling you about. And I did pull out a hunk of sequins that were still together, which I thought was really cool. And I haven't pulled them apart, but it's kind of sitting on my desk in front of me right now. So I thought that was pretty cool. So here I am just closing up the rest of it. And as you can see, I'm kind of folding the plastic in on itself to really, to get it to close up. And then I miss a spot and have to pull out the fuse tool again and fuse it. And then I make a dire mistake. I fused right on top of my cutting mat. Look at this. And I actually melted the cutting mat a little bit. See, right where I rubbed it with my finger. So there is that. So I'm really liking how this looks. I really like all of the cookies and the glitter and the shimmer inside of it. And here is my photo with my two KitchenAids. And yes, that might seem a little excessive, but I do love to bake and I love to cook. And when I am really in the baking frenzy, it's so helpful to have two KitchenAids. I also have multiple bowls as well. So, you know, when I am in the throes of Christmas baking, I've got just batches and batches of stuff being made. And look at me go. I'm using some fun foam, some true fun foam. And that is thanks to my friend Crystal from Pineapple Papers. She gave me a little bit of fun foam. I think I have one little sheet of it left after this. And we'll see if I actually go buy the fun foam or if I stick with the unfun foam. I'm thinking I might go with the fun foam. Can you believe it? I'm not sure yet. I haven't convinced myself. Now, the cookies did stick together, so I had to give them a good shake to get them to kind of spread out, which they're spread out so I can look at the layout now, because let's face it, once the layout goes in the album and it's standing straight up and down on the bookcase, everything's going to fall to the bottom anyway, but that's okay. I do hope that when I have shakers and things like that, people actually pull the layouts out of the album and shake them and move them, because they're supposed to be, right? Like, they're interactive layouts, so you want people to do that. So I'm just building a couple little clusters with the cookies. Oh, excuse me. And just kind of making that happen. And I'm only using some ATG to put them down. So I'm really happy with how this is turning out. It's very similar to the vision I had in my head. Now I have this wood veneer word that is story, and I accidentally broke it into pieces. It was packed up in a bag, and I did not have it really packed well. So I have these gold letter thickers, and I don't have the letters that I need to spell out KitchenAid because it's going to say the KitchenAid story. So I do take a K and chop off the top to make it an N. And then I also take an F, and that little bit of the K that was left behind, I chopped off a little nubbin to make it an E. And I'm okay with Frankensteining thicker letters, you guys. Like, it's not a big deal to me. There are some people that will not Frankenstein a thicker and would go searching for other letters, other options, but frankly, I really liked this font and I wanted to use it, and my word, I used it. I do have to kind of move around things a little bit so that KitchenAid will fit all the way across here, and that's what I'm doing there. So, the KitchenAid story. Basically, Target had this humongous deal last year, I believe, on the 5-quart one, the teal one in the photo. And I mean a humongous deal. Like, it was already a good deal. And then I used my employee discount and my red card discount on top of that. And it just took it down to, you are crazy if you don't go buy this mixer right now. So when I found out about it, I wasn't even at work. My husband drove me to work so that I could buy it, and we just went in and bought it. So that was a lot of fun. Okay, so the layout is getting ready to be wrapped up, you guys. Just got to throw a couple more things on there. And while I am doing that, please make sure that you check out all of the ladies' links down below. So we have Sarah, we have Caitlin, and we have Christina and myself right now doing the series. So please make sure you check out everybody's take on stamping with food theme stamps for Scrapbookers this month. Next month we will have a different theme for you guys. I was thinking about putting the date there, but I really didn't like the way it was, so I decided not to put the date whatsoever. I'm going to add a little bit of journaling, and surprise, surprise, I'm not using a Muji pen, and that is just because it was in the other room, and I was too lazy to go get it. But that's okay. It's okay to be lazy sometimes. It's not like I don't have 1,000,006 other pens to choose from. So I went ahead and used a Sharpie pen, and it is a fine Sharpie pen. I added a couple lines of journaling, and then I felt like the top needed a little bit of something more. Like it just needed a little something up there because I had lots of other colors going on, and this is a lot of this tealy greeny mixture in the background. So I just added some lines. And that's going to do it, you guys. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you again next month.